Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. It's a special episode. We're trying something new today. It's going to be Ask Going In Raw. We reached out to our $5 and up patrons. We reached out to our YouTube channel members, and we've got a bunch of questions from those threads that we're going to answer today on the show. Of course, to become a channel member, all you got to do, if you're on YouTube right now, click that join button, or you, of course, can go to patreon.com/Steve and Larson. You guys get bonus episodes, you get question threads, you get, and importantly, you get access to the monthly predictions challenge. That's right. We got a new champion, Angelic Wolf. Here is, so Angelic Wolf reached out to me, said, this is the picture I want you to slap Big Red on. It's a picture of Angelic Wolf's favorite wrestler, which is also a favorite of ours. It's Asuka. There is Angelic Wolf's entry into the Going In Raw Big Red Predictions Challenge Pantheon. Right there. Great picture of Asuka with the Big Red title on. So congratulations. Of course, up next for the Predictions Challenge, WrestleMania coming
Indeed.
up April Fools and April 2nd.
April 1st and 2nd. Yep, we're going to have a whole weekend of I'm guessing streaming that particular weekend. We haven't really talked about particulars, be Mania and probably more. So stay tuned for updates there. You want to get on these questions, Steve?
Yeah, but really quick, we're going to Dynamite tonight. We're doing a Friendo meetup.
Yes.
3 p.m. at Sauced Barbecue and Spirits. It's a restaurant that's right next to Golden One where Dynamite's being held. We're going to be there at 3 p.m. Oh, man, pressing the flesh. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be pressing flesh.
We'll say hi to everybody, yes. Is that your Cody smile?
All right, Larson, let's go ahead and dive into these questions. What's up first?
Let's do it. First one here, speaking of Cody. This is from Frozen Tape. Frozen Tape asks, if Cody wins the belts at Mania, how do you see WWE splitting the titles then? Do you think they would pull a swerve and have Cody drop the Universal title the next night on Raw? Steve, what is your plan for WWE dropping these or splitting these titles up?
All right, so in all seriousness, it would be a draft. However, I think a championship scramble would be great. Say, Cody, you're not going to pull double duty. Give up one of the titles. He says, fine, here's the Universal Championship. This has a legacy of like 8 people. I've got my WWE title, which has legacy going back to like, I don't know what, 1962 or something like that.
Yeah, the Buddy Rogers.
Right. And then Cody just throws the Universal title in the middle of the ring, and then like you cut backstage, the wrestler's like, what? What did he just say? Whoever wants it, it's theirs. And then there's a mad dash to get after that title, and then whichever man walks away with it, guess what? They're the champion. No, I would actually go with a draft. I think that if, the powers that be, the people on high, Triple H would come out, or Gomez McMahon comes out and says, for too long, there's been one person hogging all the titles. We like competition here in WWE. So we're going to hold a draft. And maybe, I don't know how to decide which title Cody gets to keep and which doesn't. He keep the WWE title because that's the legacy title. That's the one he really wants. That's the title.
Well,
I mean, I guess if they say, okay, which one do you want? That sounds a little weird. Like here's why that's weird, because he's adding, he's putting a form of favoritism on one title that makes one title seem more important than the other.
He won't be in a position to choose, I don't think, because which belt has the blue strap? The Universal title. That's going to SmackDown. WWE title stays on Raw. Cody's on Raw. They just say SmackDown needs their own title. So sorry, Cody, we're taking the Universal title from you. And because SmackDown needs their own champion. You'll be here on Raw with the WWE title. I don't think he has to make a choice if the situation is we're going to have a draft, split the belts that way.
If it's a matter of, that's actually a good point. If they do a thing where it's, what if they did this? As part of the draft, of course, Cody's going to go number 1. They decide, however they decide, who gets, ideally through competition, you add a general manager to SmackDown. Adam Pearce is the general manager of Raw, and then they each get to choose a proxy for the number 1 pick. And then they have those 2 people fight at it. And then whoever gets number 1 pick obviously will choose Cody because he's the champion. The blue strap goes to SmackDown. If SmackDown chooses number 1, then Cody goes with the Universal title. The other one they do championship scramble or something like
There
that.
you go.
Now
Championship
you said before even the pre-show, you had a somewhat outside the box idea.
Well,
what do you got?
A little bit. So it involves this involves WrestleMania. So I don't know how you would set this up when you have less than a month to do it, but I guess it would just take one promo. But it's not going to happen, and I don't even know if I really am really into this idea, but it's an idea, so I will present it for discussion.
Let's hear it.
So essentially, they make the main event night 2, Roman Cody, 2 falls. First fall for the Universal title, second fall for the WWE title. And you can kind of in microcosm have the entirety of the Bloodline story play out during the course of that match. You can have the first fall, since for the Universal title, Roman wins with an insane amount of overbooking help from the Bloodline. Well, again, it plays in the story that Sammy's been saying. One person can't defeat the Bloodline, even though Cody tries in that first fall.
Yeah.
So then you get even more overbooked madness going into the end of the second fall, where again, Bloodline tries to interfere. This time, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they come out, they fend off the Usos and Solo, allowing Cody to win the second fall and win the WWE title. And if you have, in theory, Roman win the first fall, it puts a little doubt in your brain. Oh, is Cody actually going to walk out of here with both those titles when the odds are so stacked against him? Maybe earlier in the show, you have either you have the Usos lose the tag titles, and after they lose, they take out their frustrations on Sami and Kevin Owens to put doubt in your mind that they will even be available for the end of the show.
Yeah.
Or you have the tag title match night 1 and have some sort of attack by Solo or something like that to take out Sami, Kevin Owens, again to put doubt they can get involved. It's a way to do it, and and it's a way to do it based on competition, and not on
paperwork.
Kind of an arbitrary decision by management.
Yeah, right.
And if you have Cody lose that first fall, you can overbook it to an extent that it's super protected.
Yeah. One approach that I kind of actually like is an approach that they seemingly teased before but didn't pull the trigger on, because when Becky Lynch won both titles at WrestleMania, the very next pay-per-view, she dropped one of them. I forget which one it was, but she dropped one. I think it was a SmackDown one.
It's a SmackDown one, yeah.
She did double duty. I like the idea of Cody Rhodes, who talks endlessly about climbing mountains and stuff, that he would be a guy who would potentially burn himself out. By the way, thanks to our friendos over at Cultaholic for rating us here on Twitch. We appreciate it. But I like the idea that you know, the whole burnout thing, how, you know, Cody now, you know, a couple of months or a month ago, they had like tournaments and whatever number one contender matches for the tag titles. It was Raw titles and the SmackDown titles, and they acted like they were separate in that moment. They sort of, you know, have dialed that back a little bit. But I like the idea that there's a number one contender on Raw, there's a number one contender on SmackDown, and Cody's got to appear on both shows. It plays into what Paul Heyman, that first promo he dropped against Cody, or the second one he dropped against Cody, where he said, let's do the math on this. You're never going to be home. Maybe that actually comes to fruition and Cody starts breaking down. I mean, watching a babyface champion be interesting for once would be pretty cool, because it rarely happens. And so if Cody and right now, you know, WWE loves Cody, so the more Cody, I think they would probably think the better, because he's a proven draw. That story about, you know, house shows not selling shit for tickets, and then let's put Cody in the advertising, and then all of a sudden it's a sellout. I think watching his journey to burning out would be kind of interesting, and at some point he's going to drop one of those titles, and you could do it through overbooking and stuff. But you know, the thing is, the dude's got to be human, you know, and the idea that he would burn himself out and lose one of the titles, and then that sets up a story down the line where, you know, eventually when he loses the other title, another draft happens. He ends up on the same brand as this other person. Okay, well, let's revisit this. And then if they want to give him a win back or whatever, they can do that. But I would love the idea that, you know, Cody's Universal Champion, but he's got to deal with Judgment Day over on Raw. You do this big overbook finish where Finn Balor ends up WWE champion. I think that'd be actually pretty cool because I'd love to see Judgment Day with both, the main titles, or you have Rhea on SmackDown. Judgment Day follows her. He ends up with the Universal Championship. Yeah. Which he lost because of injury back in 2016.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's actually kind of my preferred way to go is just Cody defends them both on both brands. He's got to do all the shows, and that eventually catches up with him. I think that's kind of a cool idea.
I mean, I remember talking back when Becky had both the titles about that scenario playing out. And they didn't do it. They had her drop the SmackDown one like the next pay-per-view, but it's an interesting scenario to see if they were to go through with it, how it play out. It'd be pretty neat.
He starts showing up. He's just exhausted.
I know.
he comes out to drop a promo. He's like, "What do you guys want to talk about?"
Naps? I'm down to talk about naps.
Does anybody have a pillow here? Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Next, we got another Cody question here from Cody Martinez.
Oh, lucky guy to have that name, man.
If Cody wins the titles at WrestleMania, who should he defend it against first? Roman in a rematch or new challenger?
So the first pay-per-view after WrestleMania is, of course, Backlash, which
I think just announced it's going to be in Puerto Rico.
That's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
That's pretty great. Bad Bunny's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be kind of cool to give like a bit of a rub to that because Damian Priest is Puerto Rican, right? Mm-hmm. Give it to Damian Priest. I mean, it's a sure win for Cody, but that'd be kind of a cool, Backlash main event. I don't know. Screw it. Put Damian Priest in the main event. He deserves it. I don't want it to be Roman. I think Roman needs to be saved for like SummerSlam or something like that,
Yeah. And also, I think Roman after if and when the bloodline crumble, if that happens at Mania, he should be out of the title picture for a while, either because he's taking time off or they're telling the story of his redemption, if you will.
Yeah, right.
And in either instance, he should be nowhere near championships for a while.
Yeah.
I think Priest at Backlash makes a lot of sense. That would be pretty neat. It'd be cool if they actually have some stakes for King and Queen of the Ring, and the winners of those tournaments get the title opportunities.
That would be awesome.
That'd be pretty great.
That'd be good. But then that's in May.
Yeah, and that would set up the challenger for Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank, potentially, yeah. Yeah, that could be. That'd be kind of fun. And again, that'd be kind of fun, Money in the Bank. What if, that's another way you can split the titles is, okay, when you win Money in the Bank, you get to choose which one you're going to cash in on. It's not going to be for the whole enchilada.
Nope.
And then Money in the Bank. That'd be cool. I can dig that.
That would be cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, I think Damian Priest at Backlash would be great. Be a great idea. Let's answer this one from Blake Whitehouse. What are some changes MJF should have to make if he went, or would have to make if he went to WWE?
A ton.
Yep.
Mainly
stop throwing drinks at people in the crowd.
So here's the thing. When there is like video of a person, I get the concept of keeping kayfabe, right? MJF has got that old school mentality, which has worked really well for him.
It has.
Where, when you think of like WWE superstars, I don't know who's Finn Balor. He's one of the top heels right now, right? He's like one of the top bad guys. You see him do media appearances, and they're sort of like a tongue-in-cheek version of their character, right? MJF shows up in every podcast, and he blasts everybody, and he acts like a complete and total asshole, and he's dropping F-bombs left and right. He's on, when there's people gathered outside an AEW event, and he's signing autographs, he's being a piece of shit to people.
Yeah.
Calling them just the rudest things. That ain't going to fly in WWE. You're going to see a completely different off TV version of MJF. That's not going to work there. They don't do that.
No.
Now, can he be a jerk still to people in a certain way? A bit more tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he can't be going around saying, "Oh, you fucking dumb idiot." You can't be doing that shit.
No.
That's not going to fly. So outside WWE, you're going to see a big change. You're going to see a big change.
Well, I think even in terms of how he approaches his work in the ring, he maybe not so much wrestling wise, but in terms of how he delivers promos,
he's just not going to be able to say fucking.
Yeah, he won't be able to curse really.
Yeah. That's the main thing.
That is the main thing. But I'm guessing he has a great deal of latitude and freedom in AEW to say whatever he wants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And not to say he won't have some degree of freedom in WWE, but I would imagine there's bullet points, and he's going to have to stick to those bullet points because they're stories that they want to tell in a very specific way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so he'll have to kind of tailor his approach to that. Yeah, maybe they'll try to steer him away from the low-hanging fruit.
The misogyny's going to end.
Yes.
That's definitely, I mean, that's not going to, you can't do that in WWE. And you know what? He's going to get criticized if he goes there. People are going to be like, oh, you're just a watered down version. There'll be like clips on Twitter of people saying, oh, remember when MJF was so good? And, now he's got to, so he's going to have to find a way to not rely on that stuff. And I personally think that he can do it. I think that the low hanging fruit, the misogyny and stuff, I think that stuff is, I don't know. I think it's counterproductive to him establishing a strong character.
Yeah. Because
it distracts you. It's like, oh, why is he going to that well? Like, that's easy. That's like, that's just bad writing right there when he does that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if because of that, he becomes a bit more compelling, then I think people will forgive it. If he comes off like he's been lobotomized, then the people are going to savage him.
Yeah. Yeah. If he looks at it as a challenge in terms of, okay, I can't do this to generate heat like I used to. How can I be more creative about getting the heat that I need and want?
Yeah.
And if he steps up to that challenge and delivers, then it's going to be, okay, this is the evolution of the MJF character. But if he is not interested in doing that or tries and it can't consistently do it, then it's going to come across like a watered down version of what he was doing in AEW.
I think he's savvy enough to take that evolution of his character.
Yeah.
And work it into his new role in WWE as well. And I think he can be incredibly forward about it. Like be maybe even resentful that he's not allowed to do the things in WWE that he was able to do elsewhere. And it can be a bit of a chip on his shoulder, oh, I'm making so much money. This was the most, he can refer to his deal as the most complex deal in WWE history. Yeah. And he can, kayfabe his price as being, higher than Brock's and higher than Roman's.
Higher than Cody's.
Specifically higher than Cody's. And, admit that because of that, there are certain limits. So it's got to be a bit of the corporate champion deal. It's like, oh, I can't do this. He'll take it to a certain line. He'll take it to a certain limit and then dial it back in a very sort of meta way.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, I think he would be up to the challenge. But the risk is that if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, water down to MJF.
Yeah.
We got a question here from Rager World. Asks, what wrestlers do you think are most likely to jump ship when their contracts are up? So, Steve, it's well documented that you're convinced the Elite's gone. So let's take them off the table.
Okay, fair enough. MJF off the table too.
Yeah,
I think
that's part of his character. Basically,
look, either that dude signed an extension or he hasn't. And if he hasn't, I would be kind of shocked if he stayed around in AEW. He knows that he could be have like the biggest debut.
Yeah.
He would be, I think he'd be up for the challenge to beat Cody's return and Jericho's debut, which are kind of like the two bigger ones. So take them off the table. Wrestlers who are most likely to jump ship when their contracts are up. Well, given that this is supposed to be a meatier version of answering questions, I know Fightful has.
Oh yeah,
Fightful has a whole list, so we can take a second here.
Dates, right?
And by the way, I'm just going to point this out. We've got 365 awesome friendos watching on the YouTube. If you guys want to drop us a super chat and squeeze your question in, we're more than happy to take anybody's question.
I mean, if anything else, we can kind of do a lightning round at the end too, if needed.
I think that'd be a cool idea. So. Allegedly, September of 2023, Rey Mysterio's is going to come up. That dude ain't going nowhere.
No, he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere.
So
Alexa
I'm looking
Bliss.
here on the WWE side of things. Sorry to interrupt. You got Ricochet, summer of 2024. Distinct possibility that he'd go to AEW.
I'll put it this way. If enough people, if the Elite, MJF, Hangman, if they end up going to, I know Hangman's the Elite, but he's not really. If they end up going to WWE, there's going to be some gaps. There's going to be some holes that maybe they're going to want to fill, and they might overpay for some people. And Ricochet might be the kind of guy who's like, man, I sort of check off all the boxes for AEW. Let me head over there. That's a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal, summer 2024.
No, he's not going anywhere.
That dude is WWE through and through. The New Day is through December of next year.
I would be pretty surprised.
I'd be shocked. I would actually be shocked because Xavier Woods has the perfect setup there with all the gaming stuff. He's able to do all that stuff.
It says here The Miz through 2025. Miz ain't going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. What about The Undertaker in 2034?
No, not going anywhere.
Oh, what about Nick Khan in August of 2025? That dude is going to be so rich by then. That guy is going to be massively rich. He ain't 7 foot back into the wressling business.
He won't need to work. He won't need to work.
This is an interesting name, and there's probably going to be time added to it. But Matt Riddle through this year. So theoretically, if time isn't added for whatever he's been dealing with, at the end of this year, he could be a free agent. And given allegedly what's been going on with him, AEW might be a bit more lax when it comes to, how they deal with wrestlers' extracurricular activities.
That could be. And while that might be appealing for him, maybe the structure would be of WWE would be good for him.
People rarely do what's best for them, though.
So I don't know. That one I don't know. You'd think, the wrestlers who have gone through PWG especially.
Yeah.
In my mindset, that's people who've gone through PWG, they might be more inclined to maybe explore AEW because a lot of people who've been through PWG have ended up in AEW.
Yeah, right.
But that's far from a guarantee. I mean, that's why I think Ricochet's a possibility. I mean, he hasn't really been doing a whole lot in the main roster, but also he was through PWG. He might be friendly or with the Young Bucks or Kenny. I don't know, or Adam Cole, or any number of people who went through PWG.
Ricochet's an interesting case because they give him just enough to maybe keep him, and plus the big paycheck. But in terms of creatively, they give him just enough. Hey, you're on TV. Yep. AEW's got a loaded roster. Not sure if you're going to stand out there. But you could also do New Japan stuff again, and he really seemed to like doing the New Japan stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AEW people. Brian Cage, the Machine. Apparently, his contract was up last month, according to Fightful. I don't know. He seems to be sticking around. He's a champion in Ring of Honor who seems to lose a lot.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I mean, he's been through WWE developmental this many years ago. He's been through that process. Not to say he wouldn't necessarily want to go back, but I don't know. Like, he's a really good in-ring wrestler. We haven't really seen much from him from a character perspective, and that's such a huge part of what you have to do in WWE. You just can't get by on being a really good wrestler in WWE.
Yeah.
FTR, who knows? They're back in AEW now. They might have signed long-term deals, even though Dax kind of poo-pooed that on the recent podcast. But who knows?
To what? I didn't read the actual quote. I saw the headline.
He just said their situation hasn't changed. Which, if they signed extensions 6 weeks ago, he's still telling the truth.
Yeah, I wonder how much of his podcast is him like, well, technically I'm telling the truth. FTR, who knows? What about Andrade? He's got to be gone, right?
I would think, especially if Triple H is still head of creative by the time his deal is up. Yeah. He's probably out of there. He's going to have time added on to his deal, I would think.
I would think so as well.
Because of injury.
Yeah, I would think so.
So Bryan Danielson said this is his last full-time wrestling contract. Not to say he might not show up in WWE to do a couple things here or there. Definitely a Hall of Fame induction, but full-time, no.
Given what he said about, his Mania match, how he was going through the motions, I'd be shocked if I saw him back in WWE for anything more than, like you said, a Hall of Fame induction or anything like that. Yeah. He seems to be having too much fun. He seems to be, and on top of that, unlike a lot of people, have you noticed Danielson hasn't burned through everything he could possibly do in the shortest amount of time possible? Some of these people need to ease up a little bit. Like FTR, they got released, bang, 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 bang. They did everything they could possibly do in as short amount of time as possible. And so it's now what is there left to do?
Yeah.
Danielson's he's not burning through everything.
No,
he could still go to New Japan for 3 years, I don't know if he'd do that because he's got, but New Japan's here in the States quite a bit, so who knows?
Yeah. Another name that I would be surprised didn't go back to WWE would be Miro at this point. It says here he signed till early 2026, and that's a ways away. Who knows what's going to happen? But if Triple H is still running things over there and he feels like from a creative standpoint, better opportunity.
Oh, he is actively probably trying to figure out how to get out of AEW right now. Yeah, he's probably doing it. Let's pivot to this question here. It's a super chat from Mario. He says, instead of who you think would go, who would you want to jump ship? Who in WWE would you love to see? Oh, I'd love to see what they would do in AEW. Here's one for me that will never happen. Never. Rollins. To see Rollins now, the Rollins now, as Tyler Black in AEW, but more in New Japan, would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
If he just would have said, hey, for 3 years, I'm going to go out there and just focus on wrestling crazy, awesome matches.
Yeah.
And really putting my stamp is, hey, I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world too. There's no denying this. So he goes to Japan, wrestles Ospreay, and he goes to AEW and wrestles Kenny and Danielson. Brian Danielson, not Daniel Bryan, Brian Danielson.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
It would be pretty wild.
Yeah. Another name, Bayley. I would love to see. And given how enthusiastic she is about, supporting, and obviously they're very close friends, but like seeing her out there for, rooting for Mercedes Moné, I wonder if there's a little bit of her that's like, man, this would be cool. This would be really cool.
Could be.
Yeah. Those are names that I'd love to see jump ship. Jump ship.
Like, we mentioned the New Day, and I don't think it's likely they leave WWE, but if they went to AEW, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially if the Elite were still there, because that's a match that all of them have wanted for a number of years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I'd love to see Aleister Black back in WWE just to see what they would do with him, just to see what Triple H had planned for his, coming up from NXT to main roster.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Name
awesome.
One.
How about one name? One name from Impact.
Oh, Jordan Grace.
Yeah.
Jordan Grace, go to WWE.
I can't wait till Masha debuts in NXT because that shit's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that shit is totally gonna happen. I think if they start signing up, if I'm telling you, man, if NXT 2.0 starts signing up some of those Impact players, oh my gosh, some like the younger Impact stars, holy shit, speed. Imagine Mike Bailey in NXT.
That'd be wild.
Holy, him versus Axiom or Nathan Frazier. Oh my Carmelo. Gosh. Oh my God. Yeah, that shit would be nuts.
That would be great.
Yeah.
We got a question here from Adam Bull. It says, Steve has recently said he doesn't care about Logan Paul and does not want Logan Paul to be Seth's opponent. So my question is, what would you do with Rollins at Mania if Logan Paul wasn't his opponent? So what would you want Seth involved in at WrestleMania if he's not wrestling Logan Paul?
I always really liked the Cody Seth for the WWE title scenario, and then Rock Roman. I always liked that. I thought that was pretty cool, but I'm not going to argue about Cody being in the main event. What would I prefer him to do? I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know. Seth versus Finn, Seth versus AJ. Did we get Seth versus AJ at Mania? Was that a Mania match?
I don't think so.
I don't remember if that was a Mania match or not. Seth versus AJ would be a lot of fun. It'd be rad. It'd be cool. Probably gonna tell me they did it already. Seth versus Shinsuke Nakamura. If they after the Muda stuff, if they had brought back Shinsuke, like sort of powered up, repackage him a little bit, make him just a complete badass, kind of like what they did with Asuka. They just kept her out for a while and then brought her back as a more intense version of her character. Do the same thing for Shinsuke. Him versus Seth at WrestleMania would be holy shit.
Yeah. Give me Seth versus Gunther.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Give them great. 25 minutes. Tear the house down. That could be amazing.
No, that'd be phenomenal. That'd be great.
That'd be a huge win for Gunther as he sets a new record for longest Intercontinental title reign too.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Reaper here asks, do you think that WWE will ever try to break the Bruno record? Continues, I have a feeling that if Cody does lose to Roman at WrestleMania, there does not seem to be anybody left that he has not beaten other than Seth. Having the title for 8 years ain't gonna happen again.
It's impossible.
The industry is too different.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It is. It is. Now, if they did a thing, if Roman was willing, and they did a thing where they split the titles, and on Raw you got one of them, and the Universal's on the other, and then they did a draft 3 years later, and they did it the other way. If Roman was willing and they did split titles, it's likelier. But 8 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It was completely different back then because there was no social media. There was no internet. There was none of that stuff. They barely had telephones back then. That's not true. But like word of mouth wasn't even a thing. Newspapers didn't exist.
Well, it was all telegraph. Everybody had a telegraph in their house, right?
You'd read magazines back then. That's what they would have magazines back then.
Magazines and newspapers, yeah.
And it's hilarious to even if you go 10 years after that time, if you look at on Peacock, they got the first championship wrestling episodes with Bruno, and he was a commentator, and then he would feud with what's his face, Zbyszko. The presentation is amazing. It's so sports like. It is so completely sports like, and it's so much fun to watch back then. Vince McMahon on commentary back then versus what he's like now, Gomez McMahon, but or in more recent years anyways. It made a lot more sense back then, just because word of mouth was all you had than magazines or whatever. But it's just it's completely different. There's no way it would work these days.
No, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, Roman's approaching 3 years.
Yeah,
as champ. If he were to hold on to the Universal title till after SummerSlam this year, it'd be 3 years.
I think he has at best maybe Hogan. What was Hogan? 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
I think Hogan was 4 years. Backlund, I think, was like 5.
Yeah.
Backlund was a really long time.
Yeah.
Was like 78 to 83 or something like that.
And then Iron Sheik had it for a little bit, and then Hogan beat him for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sheik had it for like a second. That was literally a transitional champion right there.
I mean, in terms of modern day records, it's more likely that someone would pass Hogan.
Yeah, sure.
Even that is kind of a stretch. No one's gonna get close to Bruno.
This Roman situation is so unique that if he doesn't do it, I would be shocked if anybody did it. I really would be.
Even Cody?
In terms of passing Hogan, I don't have the book in WWE. If I did, it would totally be Cody. But I don't, to everybody's detriment. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what we do in GM mode.
You're gonna put the rocket on Cody and
because you could do multiple seasons. Yeah. By the way, so I was able to strong arm my partner here into next Tuesday because I think the game's gonna be out of that. I think early releases by then. I think early releases maybe on Monday. Whenever the first Tuesday opportunity we have to live stream my GM mode, because you could do up to 4 GMs. So it's me, Larson, the Enforcer. We're going to do it live on Twitch and YouTube. And if people are into it, if people like it, we'll keep on doing it. If people are like, no, this sucks, you guys are dumb, then we're not going to do it. I'll just do it with the Enforcer over at my channel.
There you go.
But yeah, we're going to do that. And then, boom, Cody's going to be heading up WCW. And it's just going to be to the moon.
To the moon.
Yeah,
to the moon.
Absolutely.
Stan has a question here. Asked, do you think we could ever get back to NXT call-ups again, getting the monster crowd reactions post-Mania like Nakamura, Enzo, and Cass? It seems if someone is worthy of that pop, they should just go to the main roster right away. I mean, it's not just because like Nakamura showed up and it was SmackDown after Mania. It was in a segment against The Miz. It's like, well, that's an interesting pairing at first, but then that never actually happened. I mean, for me, the most impactful ones are like Finn, who was drafted to Raw, and then when he had that debut where the crowd of wrestlers parted so he could step forward, or Kevin Owens, where he showed up as NXT champ to challenge John Cena. Like for me, those are really impactful ones.
Yeah, right.
They're surprises to a degree, but more so it's like, okay, not only are they showing up kind of out of the blue, but they're showing up with purpose and in a major spot.
Yeah.
It'd be great if they gave that kind of opportunity to say Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because that dude is a star.
Yeah.
And he should be put in a prominent position right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that just doesn't really seem to be the philosophy at this juncture, at least. Now that they have these kind of tryout main roster matches on main event, To see how they acclimate wrestling in front of the crowd, how the crowd responds to them. I'm sure it's a way to see them how they wrestle on, a larger production like main roster TV as opposed to NXT. Just kind of doing it that way kind of takes a little bit out of it, a little bit. But then again, if they're debuting at a huge position on the card, it's an impact, and that's what you want from people who have been successful in NXT, is to come to the main roster and make an immediate impact.
I think the main issue is NXT's lost so much of the luster from the black and gold days. I believe they're getting it back. I do. I think the ratings are still in the garbage, but like I feel like, I don't know, just watching the quality. They had the infusion of the UK people. Mako's there. I think that they are. We were talking about this a little bit pre-stream. HBK was put in a tough spot. He was like, okay, a complete and total rebrand. People who were security guards last week are now going to be shoved into main event situations. Hey, and that's a tough situation to just try to build chemistry.
Yeah.
And with wrestlers, half of which have only been wrestling for like 8 months. That's a tough situation. A lot of those wrestlers have developed really well and really quickly.
Yeah.
So you've got people like the Creeds. You got people Braun Breaker to a degree, but specifically Carmelo, who had a career before NXT, of course. But you got Chase U. Now, Chase U is a perfect situation because Chase U probably more than anybody has built that buzz in NXT, so that when you see them at that last Premium Live event in front of a non-Performance Center crowd, they were getting like the biggest pops of the night. Mm-hmm. And so to see them debut in a surprising way, in a big way, on main roster, even if it's not Chase U's not going to be like a main event situation, but I don't know. You put another goofy act out there like Judgment Day, who typically are they're not goofy, but they could be fun.
Yeah.
You put Chase U, who are completely different. There's the possibility for some fun stuff. Chase U's they would get more of a pop the way Enzo and Cass got a pop. It's like, oh, I've heard about them, or I know them from NXT. I really like them. They got this fun energy about them, and then you're going to get those pops. In terms of getting a Nakamura-esque or a Kevin Owens pop, or I don't know, who had like the best in terms of like the Finn Balor situation. Finn Balor, he was a big deal. A surprise call-up like that. It's just a matter of like continuing to build on that buzz in NXT so that when somebody does debut, it's like, oh shit, this is like a big deal,
Exactly. I got a question here from Star-Lord. Says, hey there, friendos. Do you think Big E makes a return at Mania or Raw after Mania, or will he ever return? So last we heard from him is that he was going to have another checkup on his neck this month, a year after the injury happened.
Yeah.
Given the nature of the injury and worrying about the C1, that is concerning. He avoided surgery, and the way he presented it, that's a positive. I know he said there was some issues early on, I think with some healing in the C1, but I don't believe he's commented since then. He's made tons of appearances, and he's keeping himself in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's down to his health, his happiness. If he's cleared to wrestle and he feels comfortable get back in the ring, and that's what makes him happy, and then I would love to see Big E back. And if he shows up at the Raw after Mania, I would pop huge, or the SmackDown after Mania, since the New Day's on SmackDown.
Yeah.
But if they say you shouldn't risk it, given the nature of the neck injury, he's an immensely talented individual. Whatever he does next, he's going to succeed wildly at it. And I would be interested to see what that is, and would definitely follow him into whatever his next endeavor is. More than anything, we just want him to be healthy, happy, and whatever comes next comes next.
Yeah. No, you pretty much covered it all. Like, he said that he's going to take another look at it a year later. What he went through was a very, very serious thing that could have been much worse. So I'm just happy that the guy seems happy. And if it brings him back to wrestling, great. If not, but I don't see him making. I would be shocked if he actually came back in terms of some sort of in-ring situation after Mania. If he came back and said, "Hey, I'm cleared enough to be a manager," then I'd be over the moon. I think that'd be great. You know, be a part of the New Day without having to take an in-ring thing. Of course, I'd take that in a heartbeat. You know, it might even, you know, be kind of the reboot that the New Day might need to generate some fresh storylines for them.
Could be.
Jacob Went says, who is a wrestler you felt should have won a world title in WWE but never did? Could also be a current one who you felt the timing of them winning a world title has passed. For example, Nakamura. Of course, Nakamura had, you know, the big WrestleMania match with AJ Styles. He had won the Royal Rumble, but he never actually won the WWE Championship. I feel like they should have put that title on him, but
yeah, it never happened. And it kind of does seem like that opportunity has passed. Not to say they can't find something for him creatively to get back to that point, but it just hasn't happened. I mean, Razor Ramon, historically speaking, is probably tops on that list. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, probably like the top of the list would be Roddy Piper for me. The fact that they never had like Hogan chase him for the title, that Piper never won it back in the day, I think they really should have run with it. I think he could have been but it's just Vince's philosophy was different back then.
Yeah, it was. If this were in the NWA, that's totally what would have happened.
He would have been champion forever. Yeah.
Yeah. He would have been in the Ric Flair position because that's how the NWA did things. They had the heel champ and the baby face is chasing. Vince did the opposite thing.
Yeah, but no, Razor Ramon clear, especially in 94, 95.
Oh, yeah.
When, like, you know, it was Diesel for a year. They probably should have, you know, tried to hot potato that title a little bit more.
All 5 members of the Clique. Champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Between 94 and 96. Yeah,
absolutely. 1,000%. No, this is a good organ grinder also. This is another great one from back then. $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, technically was champion. He defended it, I think, but they never acknowledged it. So, yeah, those names for sure. Top of my list, honestly, China.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking amazing. She won the corporate Rumble, and I think that was supposed to be for like a number 1 contender shot. And then like Foley won it off her, something like that. I forget how it went. Yeah. But yeah, China, she won the corporate Rumble. Man.
That'd have been huge.
That would have been huge.
Huge.
Yeah. That would have been so great. They had that opportunity, and they never have had that opportunity again, you know?
Yeah. Mondo here asks, since the Oscars are this weekend, who do you think is most likely to be an Oscar nominee in the future? Dwayne Johnson, Dave Batista, and John Cena. I think we're in agreement, Steve. It's going to be Dave.
Oh, man. It is Batista. Yeah, 1,000%.
He looks for those strong character roles. I mean, he said as much. He's not interested in being in the huge tentpole films like The Rock is.
Yeah.
He's interested in doing good character work.
Yeah.
And if that's his focus, he's good enough in the right role in the hands of the right director to earn himself an Oscar nomination because he is great in everything I've seen him in.
He is, dude. He is, especially with the way the Oscars work. He is that one role away. You know, he's like from starring in an Aronofsky movie away from getting that Oscar. Yeah, I could see this dude has, especially he's got like best supporting actor written all over him.
Yeah,
he really does. As much as I love The Rock and I love Cena, Cena's comedy work, the Peacemaker stuff is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, because
it spans drama to comedy so wonderfully. But Batista is one solid role away from getting that Oscar, and I'd actually be kind of surprised if he didn't at least get nominated in the next 5 years. I'd be surprised. I really would.
Yeah, same.
He's such a smart guy.
Yeah, he is. And hear him talk about his dedication to his craft.
He's directed too.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if he got nominated for a directing award at some point in the next 20 years. You know.
Luis here asks, this is the optimal time to explain going in Raw inside jokes such as John, turn yourself in, so on and so forth. So John, we've talked about quite a few times recently. It was during the whodunit phase in NXT when Aleister Black was attacked.
Yeah,
and he would talk to Johnny Gargano, but not call him Johnny. He would call him John.
So this is definitely something that I know I misremembered, but I distinctly remember in my head, which grain of salt.
Yeah.
Him like walking either outside or in a hallway.
Yeah, so the corridors of the Full Sail. Yeah.
Screaming for John.
Yeah.
I don't know if that actually happened or if I took that and I conflated it with him. He did, because he did. He referred to Johnny Gargano as John.
Yeah.
And so went from John to me thinking he yelled his name out to John. And then that just turned out saying, that was age. That was like 2019 or 2018, I think. Yeah.
It's 2018, yeah. And yes, I do remember a segment where he's looking for Gargano backstage, going through the corridors of
because he just found out that Johnny was the guy that attacked him.
Yeah. Turn Yourself In. That's from a podcast about a serial killer named Ed Edwards, where there is he's leaving a message for kind of his adopted son.
Yeah.
About some sort of I believe fake check type thing. And so he's pleading with him to turn yourself in, son.
Turn yourself in, son. Yeah, there was like a good, I don't know, month-long period where you, me, and the Enforcer were just obsessed with that podcast.
Yeah.
And so we'd say that all the time. Explain the Going in Raw inside joke of Hilton.
that would take an entire podcast. We don't have time for that. I'm sorry.
That would be a 12-part series of podcasts. It
really would.
Yeah.
It really would. It'd be up there with some of the, the great investigative works in podcast history.
Yeah, trying to figure out the inside joke of Hilton. That's too much. It's just Hilton's a guy we know.
Yeah.
He's
that's the short version of it. Anything more than that is it's a deep dive.
Right.
Real, that's Prince Devitt in New Japan.
Real.
Yep.
Yeah, you can look at a Prince Devitt promos in New Japan. You'll find it eventually.
Yeah. The man from out west says, please explain Liverpool's number one, Zach Gibson. That was his gimmick in NXT UK.
Yeah. Liverpool's number one.
Yep.
Patty Swan brings up You're Not Me. That is Baron Corbin. I think he said that during a match once.
It was against Apollo Crews at TakeOver London.
You and I were talking about how terrible his in-ring trash talk game is.
Awful.
And he was like, You're not me.
Awful.
And we were laughing our asses off about it. Oregon Grinder asks us to explain Ow, My Surgery. That is from a Ric Flair short film in the build to his last match. It's when Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Karen Jarrett attack him. And one of them like punched him or kicked him. And Ric Flair said, Ow, my surgery, because he hit him where I guess he had surgery.
Yeah. And
so at that point, it turned into he hit him in his surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here.
We got a question here from Clown. I guess if any more in-jokes pop up, we can respond to him. Clown asks, for you, Steve, what comic inspired you to want to make comics of your own?
Oh, wow. Shit, I don't know. Probably just like, I got into comic books in '89 because of the Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
It so captured my imagination. I started getting Batman comics, and I just started getting all the comics. I became a comic book junkie. And then, and back then, I was like, when I was a little kid, I'd always win these coloring contests, because back then at grocery stores, they'd have coloring contests where you win like a $5 gift certificate, which back in the 80s was like a fucking gold mine.
Yeah, you can buy, 5-6 comic books for that.
You could buy a lot. Well, back then, like when I was a little kid, I wasn't into comic books, so I just but I was really into coloring. And so like the crayons, and I would always win these things because I was really good at it. I always had the artistic bone. And so when, the comic books, I was into comic books, I just wanted to draw them. And so I grew up wanting to do that. So honestly, like no single comic book ever inspired me to try to make them. I think when I became a certain age, I recognized that there was a whole bunch back then of like comic book self-publishers like Terry Moore. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to do somebody else's stuff. I want to do my own stuff. And then it turns out I wasn't good enough to do all that stuff. So I just didn't anymore. At a certain point I gave up, and I was like, and then you called me. You're like, you want to do some voiceovers? Like, yeah, it could be funny. And there you go. And then I ended up selling more comic books after I had a whole audience here going in Raw.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they like my stuff. So
Clown also asked, what are some of your favorite comics and what are you reading today?
I don't read much today. I read because there's nothing really on the market that I really like. There's a whole wide variety of stuff. I'm just not into any of the stuff. More than anything, I have both like the Marvel app and the DC app where I'll go back and I'll read like there's some stuff I like anything by Tom King in the DC universe these days is fantastic. Like he had a Mr. Miracle comic that I hope they adapted like under James Gunn. That's just phenomenal. It's basically about being a father. his latest series, The Human Target, is really good. But mainly, I just go back and read old shit like that I had already collected back in the day because I really love that stuff from back in the day. I don't read a lot of like new stuff these days.
Then Clown asked for me, what song or album inspired you to play guitar? It was the '90s grunge stuff, specifically Nirvana, because they were well-written songs, but they didn't seem impossible to play.
Yeah.
You know, it was all bar chords for the most part, power chords. And so that's how I learned to play guitar, was playing along to Nirvana records. And after that, I learned to play a bunch of Sonic Youth stuff, and that's what really got me going into exploring kind of different music. And he also asked, is there anything you're still trying to learn today? I was out of playing for so long. When I picked it back up, it felt like I was kind of starting over in terms of my dexterity.
Yeah.
And trying to get all, I was never like a shredder. I was never going to playing super fast or anything.
It's not like riding a bike.
I mean, you remember the chord positions. Remember that?
Yeah.
And to a degree, like going from chord to chord or whatever, it's easy enough to do. But getting the rhythm back, playing faster. I mean, I'm never going to be joining Metallica or anything like that, or Dragon Force.
Yeah,
that's never going to happen. I've never able to play that fast. But just getting the dexterity back has been the hardest part.
I've watched some of Lyle from what was it, Sanity Not Included.
Yeah, he's really good.
Some of his guitar videos, it's so fucking cool to see that shit. You know, the like that kind of shit is
doing the finger tapping and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh man, it's really impressive. It's really cool. Yeah. So Jeremy says, have you two ever physically fought each other? No, that would file that one under the Hilton.
I don't remember that. Don't remember it.
We've never gotten into fisticuffs.
No.
We barely got into
next to Steve when he was making a hamburger. That's probably.
I should have just knocked it like cartoon with a pan.
But then your hamburger cooking in butter would have been flying out of the pan. Then if
it would have made for a much better story. No, we've barely even had disagreements. Yeah, like it's rare that we have had disagreements. Often, no. Yeah, go ahead.
We had a few super chats here. CGM show here says Jay White helps Finn Balor beat Edge at WrestleMania. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Isaac here says, if WWE and AEW were to do a crossover show, what matches would you want to see? Steve, name 3.
Seth Rollins versus Kenny Omega. Randy Orton, if he's healthy, versus Hangman Adam Page.
All right.
And Will Hobbs versus who do I like in WWE? Will Hobbs versus Finn Balor.
All right.
Will Hobbs versus Dominic Mysterio.
There we go.
That's what I want to see.
Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley.
Good one. Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with different matchups than you.
Will Hobbs versus Cowboy Brock. Yeah, that'd be good too.
How about Ricky Starks?
Oh, good one.
Versus Carmelo Hayes.
Good one.
And then Bryan Danielson versus Daniel Bryan.
Oh, Rawgate it. I love it.
Yep.
R. Gorman has a great one. LA Knight versus Chris Jericho.
Oh, wow.
That'd be
some
amazing.
Great promos.
Mario's got another super chat here. It says, now traditional 5 versus 5 Survivor Series matches. AEW versus WWE, both men's and women's. And then Impact versus NXT War Games. I'll take Impact versus NXT War Games.
All
right. So, Impact. I'll go with Giselle Shaw, Jordan Grace, Mickie James, Masha Slamovich, and Killer Kelly.
All right.
Versus, so I need NXT. Can they coexist? Gigi Dolan and JC Jane.
Good.
Mako, Roxanne, and
come on, Steve. There's one name you got to put in there.
Fallon Henley.
Sol Ruka.
Oh yes, Sol Ruka.
Yes. All right. Survivor Series. I'll try to do these quickly. The Elite, Hangman, and for one night only, Cody Rhodes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Versus Roman, Usos.
You got to do Seth and Mox then.
Seth and Mox, yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's
That's it.
the Bloodline and the Shield? Oh my god, against the Full Elite? Oh my god. Wow. Wrestling Wriggle here as now a member here for 2 months on the YouTube. Says thanks for the awesome content. Thank you so much for that. Let's do a lightning round on some of these that we didn't answer.
All right.
Sebastian Garcia, if Steve and Larson were both singles wrestlers, what music would you use? Oh, it says Steve pick Larson's and Larson pick Steve's.
You would come out to Ice Cube's It Was a Good Day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Didn't think about it, just popped in my head.
You're going to come out to Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper.
Great song.
Don't fear the Reaper. JR Jr., fantasy book the worst WrestleMania card using anybody dead or alive, and where is it held? So let's just, you give your main event. You give your main event night one, I'll give my main event night two.
All right, main event night one is Sid versus Sid versus Hank Walker.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. My night two main event is going to be the main event of WrestleMania we never got. Hulk Hogan 2023 versus Ric Flair 2023.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I know. I think I beat you. Let's see here. This is a great question. Alex Foster, in 100 years, how different do you think wrestling will be? And will you guys still be covering it? Yes, for me, sure. Larson is fine.
I'll be dead.
He's going to be dead. I'm going to have all sorts of cybernetic implants. So, yeah.
Yeah, Steve would be more machine than man at that point.
How different do you think it's going to be? 100 years ago, they were booking worked finishes.
Yeah. What you see in Robot Pro Wrestling is going to be more the norm. Saga is going to be champion still.
Yeah, it's all going to be cloud-based. Josh Field says, what's one thing both of you would change about how wrestling is presented on TV today?
Fly in the wall stuff backstage. Do more of it.
That's both of our answers. Yeah. Let's see here. Got that one. Wow. Nick Kyle says, what are some unusual food combos you would recommend?
French fries, maple syrup.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm not going to beat that one. Let's see here. Got that one. What does this mean? Dwayne Huff. Who won predictions?
I think predictions. Angelic Wolf won predictions.
Sorry. I could not wrap my head around that question. Let's see here. Alistair Drake. Yes, we are going to Dynamite today. Got that one. Got that one. Brandon Monroe. Do you think Cody will ever reference being able to beat Seth 3 times where Roman has never beaten Seth to get under Roman's skin? No, I think he's going to go the route of just helping Sammy and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I think so.
Kiniku Boneman, what's your favorite classic going in Raw characters? He says his will be always Barry Bratwurst and Holiday Harry.
Those were fun. Yeah, those were fun.
It doesn't get, honestly, it doesn't get better than those guys. Holiday Harry. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I always like what is it, Kenneth Habershaw?
Yeah.
And who's the other guy?
Bill Coyote.
Thanks, PC. Let's see here. Peter Lewins, does Ricky Starks have the best spear in the business right now?
No.
It's probably, somebody gave a really good spear there.
It's Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley's spear is really good. I like Moose's spear. Yeah,
their spears are both similar in that they spear and then do the kind of the flip.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Mariplana Houston, does it hurt AEW if they aren't on a streaming service like HBO Max? It's easier to justify spending $10 a month to see WWE programming and pay-per-views. And also, Peacock has other shows, which is better than paying $40 every pay-per-view.
It's a better value for the customer if it's on a streaming service with other content.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Does it hurt AEW? I don't know that it hurts AEW.
No. They need some place where you can watch old Dynamites and Rampages, though.
Yeah. And then we answered this one from Cameron because we're gonna try to do the My GM thing. We're gonna try it. Anyways, that was awesome. That was cool. I like this. Fun. And we got like almost 500 people here in chat and YouTube, and
cool.
Almost 200 here on Twitch. So those are good so far. So. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you want to get your question answered, you can do it by clicking join on the YouTube. or by becoming a $5 and up patron. We'll see you again for another Ask Going In Raw next Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with our AEW review. Again, today, 3 p.m. That's in 2 hours at Sauced Barbecue and Spirits in Sacramento. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.